authentic, whatever you want to say, than their grandfathers. Can we agree on those things? You could also make the argument men today are more handsome than their grandfather. Whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. On the flip side, are women today, based on the things men value, are women today better than their grandmothers?
No.
Based on the things most women want, are men today better or worse than their fathers and grandfathers?
I think that generally the traits of our grandfathers isn't something that women innately, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, want out of a man. I think that masculinity, I think that pragmatism, that realism, that sometimes can come off as coldness, all those things.
Let's get simple. So men today make more than their grandfathers.
Okay.
Men today on average are more educated than their grandfathers.
Okay.
Men today are more emotionally intelligent, emotionally authentic, whatever you want to say, than their grandfathers. Can we agree on those things? You could also make the argument men today are more handsome than their grandfathers. Whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. On the flip side, are women today, based on the things men value, are women today better than their grandmothers?
No.
First of all, before I intro myself, I really hate she gave that long pause before answering that question.
I
that
know.
was like a painful pause to
listen
to.
What is she about to say?
She's like,
She had to put some thought into it.
did she though? I think she was afraid to just say no.
She's like, nah.
No. All right, welcome. Yes, I am back. I know I've been on vacation and working and sick. I have been back and forth on this show, but I am back. I am back for at least the next few weeks before I go back on vacation.
Where are you going?
Nice.
Going to Costa Rica.
Ooh.
Well, I'm supposed to be going in December. I'm excited.
I went there some years ago. I loved it, except for take bug spray.
Oh, that's what I heard. There are
Lord.
over 500,000 species of bugs, but that is not
They
why
got
we're
the
here.
knives and forks out. Anyway, go ahead.
Don't say that because Tony is like horrified there's so many bugs there.
Shit. Anyway.
Okay, so hey, it's Sean. Obviously, Gina B is here with me because B, per usual, is far too busy to hang out with us. So
I'm always
just doesn't
happy
want
to be here
when I'm here.
Oh.
No, I'm
Oh,
just kidding.
no. No, there's a couple times Brian and I have been here together. I mean, you know, I'm grout, basically.
No,
So.
absolutely not. You are
fill
the
in.
official third host.
I'm the official
but
third,
we
yeah.
don't want, we don't want Chris to feel away, so we don't utilize you as much as we would like.
That's fine. Yeah, because I am on loan from the Chris and Gina relationship show. Chris always likes to point that out,
Yes.
but it's good. I'm also like I feel like I'm an affiliate member
Absolutely.
of the In the Zone podcast too.
Absolutely. All right, so yes, today we are going to ask the proverbial question that none of us actually wanted to know the answer to, but are intrigued by the possible answers. Are women today better than their mothers and grandmothers? And this is a bit clickbaity. We are also going to dig into the men. We're not going to just ride the women's back and tell them how shitty they are. We are going to look at, just in general, are we better in relationships? Are we better communicators
Hell no.
than our predecessors? Are there things that they did that we should be considering bringing into our own relationships? Or were they just too fucked up for us to even be bothered? So
Good
we'll dig
question.
into that.
All good questions.
But we have a couple of newbies. So let's get some intros going. But actually, first, let me start with an oldie but goodie veteran of the In the Zone podcast. You've seen him, I don't know how many times I told him before we started the show. He's been on so much he could actually run the show his goddamn self. Welcome, Rob. Thank you for coming back.
What's going on? What's going on, folks?
Now,
It's been like far too many times for me to not get the same Gina B love. How can I get like an honorary, like,
Hey.
what's good? How many shows? Is it like you got to do 30 shows or something?
Maybe. Maybe.
Rob, I just said you can host the show without us. You've been on here
Yeah,
so much.
yeah, but Gina
Don't
was
hate.
like,
Don't hate.
let me tell you how good her intro was. I wrote down information from her intro.
Oh
I
God,
wrote down official third host. I wrote that down.
she is.
And and
Okay,
she
we're
has
not
another
here to hate, Rob.
podcast with I don't even remember the other dude name. And
Chris
Gina's
Lee.
relationship podcast.
Yeah, Chris and Gina relationship show.
Oh
Yep.
my
That's
God.
what's
Yep.
up.
And let me shout her out real quick. It comes on right before us at 6.
It
so
does.
5.
I just finished it right before we started
Yep,
this.
on their
So,
YouTube page and their
Gina, so
Facebook
basically
page.
you was already down there. That's what she's trying to say.
I mean,
No.
I didn't have to stay.
Why are we doing that?
Why are you trying to
Again,
minimize my hostness?
we are
I'm
getting
sorry.
off the
I'm
topic
a
at
little
hand.
envious. I'm jealous. This is
Don't
what it is.
hate. This is not a hater day. Anyway, go ahead.
Rob is really trying to derail this conversation, even though I was about to shout you out because this topic came from Rob himself. He sent me on 4th of July saying we need to discuss this, and I said, you know what? We do. Let's hop to it.
Did
So
you get her handle? That lady the lady who had that answer? I want to meet her.
I'm sure if you search the interwebs long
find it.
enough, you'll find her.
Yeah.
I've never seen a woman give a one-word answer ever.
Well, she did
Right.
say more before the one-word answer.
True.
She wasn't.
I
it
don't even
wasn't-
care. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if she had written a thesis before the one-word answer. I've never seen that happen ever before.
Jesus Christ. Should we turn the topic into the fact that women don't give one-word answers? Is that a
No,
more
I'm
profound
smitten
topic?
is what
No,
I'm
you know the
trying to
one-word
say.
answer
I'm
we did
smitten.
give. You know the one word. If you're pissed off, how are you doing? Fine. That is a one-word answer that we
Right.
do.
Okay.
That ain't even a one-word answer. That's like a million freaking words. It just
But
happens to be
it
real,
is
real
one
font,
word.
real small font.
It is
Yeah.
one
All right,
word.
we have got to let the virgins get intro.
Yes.
Veterans. Let's let the virgins get intro. Yes, and today we have 2 ITZ virgins that whose cherry we shall pop. I'm sure they're gonna be a
Jesus,
lot of
this
fun
is-
on here. I say this every time we have a new person on the show. This is not new.
Sounded
Anyway, Rob, we're about to mute you. To my left, very gorgeous young lady. You know, I was talking to her on the phone actually about this topic, and I just found a lot of what she said super interesting. So I just had to have her on today. Angie, thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to talk about this topic because I do have a lot to say.
We may start with you just for that.
Yes.
And last but not least, now I know Brian always brings up Whitney Young and how, you know, he's known people since Methuselah's birth and all this other stuff. I myself have decided to bring somebody on that I have known since I was like 10 years old. We went to grammar school together. We went to high school together. We're still friends to this day. This is my main man. This is going to be really hard because this is not his actual name, but I'm going to try real hard to remember B. B, thank you for joining us.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing?
And he's in the witness protection program, which is why his camera is off.
Apparently.
Yes. I got warrants.
So, and I know they want to get the Bowen jokes off, or the Harlan, or the DeSabo, or why is Brian not here? Because he loves getting the high school wrong and not have somebody I actually went to high school with.
And here we go.
And he's not even here to get the high school name wrong. Alas, so sad. He'll call me back.
He'll make it through.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's kind of hop into the subject at hand. I'm not going to get to the question at hand because that would be way too easy, right? But Angie, actually, no, I'm going to start with Rob.
Uh-oh.
Let's talk about what are really the differences between our grandmothers, our grandfathers, and us. Do you think there's really a stark difference in how they manage relationships, how they communicated? Are we worlds apart, or we haven't really evolved that far from our predecessors? What do you think?
I think it's
a
a
hard
little
question.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit, a lot of that. Like a little bit, a lot of, is that a thing? A little bit of a lot of that. Because the funny thing is, the first thing I wrote down here on my paper was, what do women value and what do men value? Because I wanted to understand if that's the starting point. Like, maybe we have totally different values back then. I would argue that we don't. I don't think we really do. I think every human beings are really, really consistent in most cases. So I don't think we really do have that much variation. I in the base of values, I think these later generations do value some other things that perhaps weren't valued, but I don't know if that's as a result of them being available. Like six figures or six-figure salaries is valued, but is that just because they're available now versus what they're used to? So I don't know. I think it ebbs and flows. I don't know if there's anything that much different between what we do today and what they did in the past.
Well, let's talk about that because you brought that up. That's an interesting question. Like, what were their values?
Yeah, I think that's got to be the starting point. Like,
what were their values? Or what do we think their values were, right? Because we can only guess unless we have recently asked our predecessors what their values were. B, what do you think the values of our mothers and fathers and grandparents were back when they were figuring relationships out?
It seems to me that there was a value placed on family, despite what your family looked like, and the bumps and bruises that may have come with your family. It seems to me that there was a value placed on it, because some of the things that I've talked to folks about and kind of read up on and just seen with my very own eyes, like there was a value placed on family and maintaining the family unit, versus discarding one another, as I see what happens to the present day.
So I was gonna say, so you believe that nowadays we don't value family?
It's not. I wouldn't say there's a total lack of value of family. It's just not as. It doesn't seem as high a priority as it used to be. It's like it's lost the value to folks to me.
Wow, I can feel the steam coming off of these women. All right, Angie.
I'm like,
I can feel it. I was like, both my shoulders are just like hot right now. All right, Angie, I'm going to pose the same question for you. What values do you think our predecessors have, and do you think that ours are so very different?
I mean, I honestly, when it comes to the comparison of generations, it's very hard to make just a ridiculous statement about which one is better. I do feel like beforehand, community, family, your relationship with God was just like huge components to really build out a relationship back in that time. But that doesn't negate the fact that in this current state, I do feel like we do value family. I just kind of feel like we have a lot of different other things that kind of shifts our focus.
Be specific.
We
can't get the fire going if we're gonna be very, very generic.
Okay, that's very true. Just education, is a huge component right now. The fact that the cost of living has been raised exponentially.
You go ahead and say that though. You can say that though. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, and just the fact, so education, I still think that family is a huge push for it, but we also want to show our daughters and our sons, like, hey, mommy and daddy both can, contribute to having a better way of living. So we want to be educated just as well as we want the man of the house to be educated. So it's just like the narrative that we need to also be well aware of what's going on in today's world, the education that you need to have, the type of money that you need to have to be able to afford a lifestyle that you want to be able to provide for your family. So that's the reason why the shift had come into play. So at first it was just family, but now it's education. It's other things along with that.
Okay. Gina, since you burning my other shoulder.
I am burning your other shoulder. So many thoughts on this. Okay, so our grandmother's generations had fewer options than we have. And you hear a lot of those women talk about how they basically had to stay for the sake of the family because they didn't really have any other way to make money. And they dealt with a lot of things. They turned a blind eye to a lot of things that their husbands were doing. And they felt that they had to take it just because they just needed to raise a family. They needed to keep the family together. And a lot of them raised a lot of us to have options and to not be in a position of being stuck.
Love that.
When, if we were facing adversity, if someone's doing something to us that we don't want to have done, if you're living a life you don't want to live, you have an option because you have education and you have the ability to fend for yourself and to feed your family, and you're not stuck here doing this.
Great
So that's how I feel.
Do you think maybe they didn't put the right amount of weights on those things? Meaning, like, I do kind of agree with B in the sense that going back home, like Big Mama House, and those things that were parcels of our community aren't as significant. Maybe rightfully so. Maybe for good reason. Maybe being back home is a source of a lot of your bullshit and trauma. I mean, depending on what you're living through. But do you think that they put the right amount of weight on options versus values?
Well, it depends on what kind of life they want to live, right? I mean,
I mean, in the education, as they were educating y'all, did they
As-
educate it in the proportion that made sense? Or did
See-
they heighten options over value?
keep in mind that grandmothers educated y'all real different than they educated us. Like, you guys didn't get the same education that the girls got
Facts.
at all. And so, therefore, that might be your perception. But I can tell you what, some of my older relatives, they're just like, look, this is kind of, either they're resigned to, like, men are going to cheat. That's just what they're going to do. So if you want to keep the family together, you got to stay, and nothing lasts forever, and blah, blah, blah. And that's their thing, right? Now, would they recommend that that's what you do? Maybe, maybe not, right? But they're also putting an emphasis on things that put you in a position to be able to make choices. Because I don't think they felt that they had choices in the matter.
Undoubtedly, their choices were limited based on the world that they were living in. I don't have no argument there. I just wonder, and maybe we talking about grandmothers, but there's also a generation prior to that, after that, which is mothers, right?
Right.
So you got to assume there was some even more watering down, if we want to use that kind of description. I'm wondering if we were at one time when grandmothers was teaching this shit, it was 50-50. The next generation get it, now it's 70-30. And it keeps changing, like in terms of what's more important to you, your values or your options.
Well, I guess my question to you would be, right, given what those women went through, right, and I can't speak for men because obviously I wasn't raised a man, but to Gina's point, what those women had to deal with, wouldn't it make sense for them to instill, their children and their
Women ain't
children's
stop dealing
children?
with that shit.
Huh?
They may deal, like, what levels of things that have women stop dealing with? Cheating, domestic abuse.
Well, it's not just that, right? I think when we talk about our grandmothers, we have to remember that they did not have the ability to buy a home. They had to get married in order to own property.
I understand.
They did not have the ability to have bank accounts. Mm-hmm. They had to get married to have a bank account. They would be forced to live with their families of 45 into millennia.
Exactly.
Okay, so
because they didn't have options to take care of themselves.
I couldn't have gotten a credit card 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Of my own.
And I think men kind of forget that, right? That those women, and what I'm about to say is not to dismiss any woman who love their husband to their dirty drawers, right? But what I am going to say is that many of them did not get married for love. A lot of women got married for survival.
I need to see your statistical sample set of where you came
You can
up
hear stories. We are storytelling people. People will tell you their stories if you listen.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be based off of statistics. This is based off of conversation that most women have amongst one another. It's very private.
It's all the folklore.
Yeah.
So you feel like most of the women, because that's what you said, like greater than 50% of the women out there were married for reasons other than loving their partner.
Well, keep in mind that marriage was not originally a love relationship. Marriage
I know
was
that, but I'm talking about what she said. I ain't talking about the other thing. I'm talking about what she said.
But that's the thing.
Yeah. And love and rings and those kind of things were not a thing until the 1930s.
What do women
So
get married?
what era are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Of women that's not.
We are offended.
Not saying it to the mic.
Trust me, you know when we offended Angie.
I was joking. I was joking.
No, but again, I'm not saying women didn't love their husbands, right? And I'm not saying they didn't love them.
They grew to love
at the beginning of their relationship.
Look at all the arranged marriages in India.
But
exactly, they grow to love.
They grow to love them.
But
if they do,
if you just look at what was going on, those women got married for survival.
Security.
Because
if you can't get anything unless you're married, then why wouldn't you get married so that you can be able to obtain the things that you want? Like, nobody wants to live
Think about this.
I'm just going to live in the gutter.
People had 10, 15 children. Do you think people did that because they love children so much or that they wanted people to help farm the land?
Hell no.
I want us to be logical here.
No.
When we're talking about this stuff.
I understand all those points singularly. It's the connection that I'm having. I got to bring home for me.
What do you mean?
Like everything you're saying makes sense, standalone. But then there's the pros of it, and then there's the actual practice of it. Like y'all have all options in the world now. You can make your 6 figures. You can yeah. You still pursuing relationship and marriage.
People down.
as feverishly as people were back then.
Wait, say that one more time. I'm sorry.
You're still pursuing that the women are pursuing that as feverishly as they were back then. Marriage. Despite the fact all this abundance of options that you have to do the alternate, right? You can live your whole life without a person. Why are y'all all
no one's saying that having a partner isn't a desire, right? Yeah. But now the purpose of a partner is like shifting, right? So now it's like, okay, I don't have to just pick any random person who can pay for me, who likes me, who will, has enough money to like feed me and my 5 kids that I gotta have because I got, whatever. Now a partnership is seen differently. Now it's like, okay, well, because you watch your family members when they're older, and you've seen the older couple. It's like you look at the picture of them, and you can tell she's been fed up for 50 years. You can just see the look on her face.
Damn.
You can see the look on her face. I mean, you see pictures of the couple. He'll be smiling. She's like, and
the older couples are the ones that look happy to me when I see the couples. That's crazy to me that's the perspective.
I was going to say that. I was going to say I remember just, well, maybe not so recently, but I just went on a cruise in the past few years, and I was just observing this older black couple, and some of the ways in which the husband was kind of doing stuff. I would say this: I felt like I had too much cool to take off, that I wouldn't be doing some of the things that this older husband was doing. Like the woman was getting her food, and it was kind of the
love is realist.
A learning moment for me, because I think he was, I got this thing about, holding a woman's purse. So I'm like, man, he's holding her purse and just standing there holding it like it was no big deal, But that was something I had to like come to learn. Like, okay, that's just the level of maturity I was at the time. I'm like, I'm not holding no freaking purse. But just to see this older guy, I mean, and literally they had to be like in their 80s, and I'm looking at this and like, they don't have the look of discontent or
but have you ever heard
exhaustion of one another.
Have you heard of the term tolerable level of unhappiness?
I have.
Yeah, that's being a human. I mean, what do you?
Okay, but my point but my point being is if you get to a place where you're just like, all right, this is, and the thing I always say, when people say it is what it is, the translation to that is it's not what I hoped, right? Oh. Okay, so just keep that in mind.
Man, that needs to be on a T-shirt.
That's what it is. Well, people say, well, it is what it is. It's not what I hoped. It is what it is.
Can we change the title of the podcast to "It is what it is" means not what I hoped.
It's not what I hoped. And after so many years of dealing with things, like, of course, like, I don't love it, but this is my life. Like, it's just, there's certain things. Like, I've been in a relationship for almost 14 years, and there are some things about my fiance marrying in 2 months
I'm curious where Curtis is born. He couldn't possibly be from the U.S. with this question.
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
Women couldn't have credit cards until 1978 or something like that.
Right, exactly. They could not have their own credit cards.
I don't know where you were born, sir.
Let's not get distracted by Curtis.
Fair.
Got to go do some Googling.
So I'm curious. This is interesting to me, right? That our generation, right, sees these older people vastly different. We have kind of shared that we've seen a bit of pain, at least from the women's perspective, right? We recognize a level of pain in the wives, and the men see happiness.
No, that's not what the
or
men
at least
see.
Or contented.
I mean, looking at your guys'
Men see
perspective, listening to you guys
vulnerable.
I'm just saying, listening to you guys' perspective, it just sounds like him holding a purse. Like, this is just I'm just gonna talk about this point that you made. Him holding the purse. That generation coined the topic of happy life, happy wife, or happy wife, happy life. They recognize that, hey, if this is what she wants me to do, even though he may be irritable, he's able to understand, like, hey, at the end of the day, if this is something that if she wants to go shopping, you don't know how long it took before he could be able to get to that place. You know, women always talk about training their spouse into this.
Beat him into submission. No, I'm just kidding.
Handpecked him? Isn't that the term? Handpecked?
That's the term.
They trained them, and you know, the man obliged. Like, it wasn't too much of a push and pull. It was just like, hey.
So you're telling me that this 80-year-old black man I'm looking at on a cruise is trained like a circus dog?
No, I'm not. Okay, see, this is the thing. Every time you say something to men, this is the thing that irritates me. It's like, I don't mean to use the word train, because I know anything that you say, it can be offensive. But
I'm
what
just
I'm
joking
saying
with you a little bit.
Even with my father covered everything in my upbringing. My mother had to pay for nothing but what she wanted. And he's thoroughly disgusted with this new generation of men who feel like, oh, you know, let's split stuff 50-50. It's like, but my dad already
He's
had
also buying $14,000 cribs. Like,
Go ahead, finish.
I don't know. But you act like $14,000 when I'm just gonna assume your parents got married in the 70s, right? You act like $14,000 in the 70s was like a drop in the bucket.
Well, you know what? Let me say, not to run you guys over, but so to your point about what we're seeing, I guess the part of what you're saying about what you all were saying about we don't see the other end of it, the I'm just bearing the tolerable sufferance. We understand the tolerable sufferance on the other end as well, because there's certain things you have to do to make the provisions like your dad did. That was not an easy task. I'm assuming, I don't know you, I don't know your father. I'm assuming your father wasn't a Bill Gates or you know, anything of the sort. I'm assuming that your dad worked really hard to make these things happen.
Absolutely.
As he should have, right? So that's what I'm saying. Those are the sacrifices and things that happen on that end, and that's just one aspect of it. It goes beyond that.
So I guess, and I don't disagree with you, man. I'm really struggling to not say your actual name, B. But what I will note here, right, is while Angie's dad made that sacrifice, and there are many men in this generation that do. I do hear a lot of chatter from men who are like, absolutely not, hell no. I'm not carrying at least the financial load alone.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I guess my question, and Rob said something very similar. Why are you shaking your head?
Go ahead.
And sucking his teeth. I'm like, well, damn.
Go ahead, man.
Combo
Go ahead, do your thing, man.
I mean, the question, it begs the question, right? Because the question will be, why can't women be like their mamas and grandmothers?
Why can't men be like I argue the same thing all the time.
Well, check this out. As you all just mentioned, as you just mentioned, so we have a progression of rights that were long fought for, and gained. So if we look at the timeline, the wage disparity is closed in. So we don't have the same wage disparity. So I mean, I don't think fully in that way. Like, hey, you're gonna pay something. I don't think. I'm not totally resigned to that thought process. Hey, you got to pay something. But you have to acknowledge that the wage disparity is closed in to where it's not as if you're making. Let's say you hypothetically, just don't throw up in your mouth. But let's say you and I are married, Chantel.
That's painful to think about.
Don't throw up, but it's not like you're making on average a quarter or a tenth of what I'm making, and that income really won't impact the house as well. Like I do know some people that make a lot. They earn so much money that they can say, hey, you know what, you're working outside the house is taken away from. You're basically working to pay for childcare, what have you. So they made the decision to, okay, well, I'll be at home and you don't have to work either as much or work at the same rate in which you did prior. But we can't ignore the closing in the wage gap.
And closing the wage gap, and the fact that a house, the same $100,000 house, has a 900% like markup in this world today. It's ridiculous. So it isn't like when my income was able to. If you was to buy a $100,000 house in 1967, you would pay $1 million for it today.
Yeah, but even I can argue that even in that point, in that time, it was still expensive to that generation. So
undoubtedly, but it was attainable.
Yeah, but even so, they could say the same thing. Like, my dad would still argue that it was still expensive back in the day. It's just now more expensive because as time progressed, that's just how life works. Yeah. It's going to always get more expensive.
It wasn't 900%.
The rate of inflation is not
but it was still,
the same.
at the end of the day, there's still social economic disparity that we know within our communities. So
this is what I'd say about this conversation, Angie. This is what I really feel like we should consider. I am perfectly capable of providing for all of the needs of my household based on my budget. I am. You just gonna live in Roanoke or like we 45 minutes outside of town.
Where
like men are still capable of doing their things, but you can't have that and a level of expectation. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And I guess I would challenge that by saying, okay,
well, what expectation?
Then why not set that? Why y'all can't live that life? I don't understand.
Well, before I can say that I agree, I need to know what the expectations are,
right?
Because that could be
to live in South Loop and have someone pay for your expenses in a way that you can be at home the whole time. Well, do you understand the level of incomes that's necessary to do that, and the amount of men that actually make that?
Right, but like. That's why, we're like, okay, then we can do a 2-income household.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
but the question y'all asked was, why can't women live like that back then? Because inflation's occurred dramatically.
Well, of course it has. But you guys are the ones that are saying that we should be more like you know what I mean? Like, people are like, women have gotten far away from the other generations.
Shit, women say that. The woman who was on the video said that.
The woman said, I'm sorry, say that again?
She said that you have. It ain't just men who are saying that. The woman answered the question with a one-word answer, probably the second or third time it's ever happened in all of history.
Dear God, you are really mesmerized by the fact she gave a one-word answer.
Yes, I am.
I mean, listen, for me personally, I'm open to compromise. We don't have to stay in the best place in South Loop. It's definitely nice places in the suburbs or even in places that are much, less expensive that we can stay in so that I can stay at home.
Naperville.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm not doing
All
that.
I'm simply saying is I'm open.
There we go.
No, because
there are tons of people who live in Naperville. This is not an absurdity.
No. I said way past Naperville.
That's Aurora. Or
way
see, we gotta know.
Canada.
We gotta know on the left. We gotta know on the left.
That's Canada.
You're pushing it.
We're not doing it. Okay, let's go.
You don't want to live in Malta?
Like your neighbor 2 miles down. Like
Malta?
that's
okay.
No.
Well,
Malta.
okay.
Galena?
I'm gonna switch gears just a touch and just deal with the question of this entire fucking podcast, right? Why do we come here? So I'm gonna ask the proverbial question. I'm gonna see if we go give a one-word answer like the young lady on TV.
That will not happen with me. We can try. Okay.
I'm gonna start with. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna have to say it. I'm sorry, Q. I'm just going to. This B thing is just not working for me. But Q,
Now we're confusing people. But go
Based on, I know, I'm
That's
sorry.
fine.
Q is B.
I really I tried and I'm gonna fail. Based on what men today want, actually, let's start there. What do men today want? Let's define that.
Yeah,
before we get into the
before we
question.
start.
And I can't answer that question because I got a vagina, so.
It's true.
I think
You're like,
if I had to just give it a general, like kind of a general cast over it, I think what we want, one of the things we want is just women that are feminine. I'll just slap that on it.
Okay.
Okay.
And what is so?
If somebody's
Why?
question,
Why?
is somebody put pepper spray in that booth?
Why?
I'm
Ask
sorry.
the follow-up question
So
because
annoying.
otherwise we
That's
have
the
no
most-
real working definition. So when you say women that are feminine, define that for us so that
Please
we
elaborate.
know what we're working with.
Man, you just dropped like a nuclear bomb in
Okay,
this studio.
I put pepper spray in there. My
I
bad.
got
my
no
bad.
skin on either
Just,
shoulder
just
right
put,
now.
put a fan there, blow it out. My bad. I think when I think about that, I'm thinking about nurturing woman who's kind and gentle. I'm not thinking about a step stool necessarily, but just more so along the lines of a nurturing woman who's kind and gentle. Somebody who I would think about, hey, this is who I want to. My heart would warm as I think about this person raising my children.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, bro.
You next, Rob.
This thing what I see on my screen, bro.
Oh, I see it. I see it.
See the B, like she over here, like I'm about to hit on this dude. Like,
She just scooted up to the edge of her chair.
and then Chantel's over here, like this. Anytime a woman looking at you like this,
And just scooted up to the edge of her chair like I'm about to get
I already
punched.
said
Put her
he
best,
set off
like,
my
Andy's like-
shoulders are at a crisp.
But I'm
For
just trying
real.
to figure out, like, okay, so, and here's what I'm trying to figure out. If we're talking about femininity, if we're talking about, I just like to know where men are coming from when they say that. So when you say, okay, so you want a woman who can be your peace, right? Who can be nurturing to you, someone who can be, what is she looking like? Like what feminine? Okay, so when you see a woman, you think, before you even meet her, you think, oh, she's not feminine enough. What are we referring to?
I'm sorry, could you back that up for a second? You said when I say that again?
Physically, like what do we do? Is there a physical element to this or no?
Oh, I didn't say anything about physical. I just mentioned like your way of being.
From a person. Okay, cool. I was just I just wanted to make
No,
sure that we had a
where did you get physical from?
No, she was asking a
I'm trying to
clarifying
round it out.
question.
Yeah, I'm just trying to round it
Exactly,
out.
No,
clarifying
okay,
question.
all right.
Okay, that's
I
all,
had to
that's
spit
all.
them words out. You trying to shut my mouth?
No, I'm not trying to
you
put
gotta
words
be
in your mouth.
kind too.
Okay.
All right. So,
Feel
Rob,
bad.
now
Rob,
it's your turn to throw some landmines out here and
Oh, no,
get
wait.
Chantel's back nice and toasty roasty.
No.
What do men today want?
The funny thing is, I don't think it's too much different than what a dude in 1967 would have wanted.
I would agree with you.
To be honest with you,
I would agree.
because y'all making money don't mean shit to us.
This is
I ain't
not
never
answering
built
the
no
question,
life
though.
based on my lady's money,
Okay.
right? So the
You
same,
shouldn't, but yeah, some guys do.
yeah, you guys do.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I've never had that in my mind. These things that y'all covered. I mean, I'm fine with having a smart woman. I think I need a smart woman to be around me because I damn sure don't feel like taking care of no dumb ones. Like that don't make no sense for me. So all of the things that they have, the stewardship, the guidance, the wisdom. Yes, I wanted to be as attracted to my eye. Yes, I wanted to make sure that she knows that I want her to be attracted to my eye. Those things, I don't think those things are inconsistent with a dude since probably, I mean, what, caveman times? Like it's not that different for us. But that's largely because our options have been broad because it's a man's world. So I get that part too.
I think they froze.
You said
Oh man.
Comcast.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't hear
Okay.
them. Let's give them a second and see what's going on.
Yeah, because I see the live still running the counter. Man, I want to ask why did I get such a scathing response when I said
Oh, I can answer that for you. Uh, anytime you question, I don't know what they would want us to do. What would they want us to do? Because I also don't want to make sure we talking audio wise. Oh, there they go. And I think they just kicked us out.
perfect. Oh, okay. It's probably gonna resend the link.
Oh no, it's still live.
Gotcha.
We back.
Well, that was fun.
Everyone had time to incubate the
Sorry,
thoughts.
guys. As soon as it was heating up, it got so hot in here. These women's
All of a
head
sudden it was-
exploded and caused the internet to go out. So I had to calm them down.
True.
We got them.
Good.
We woo-sawed. We prayed. We did a little yoga pose. And the internet
Smoked a
gods,
joint.
the internet god said, "Okay, you guys are poised enough now to
Who
have
fixed
the
it?
conversation." Huh?
Who fixed it?
Jake.
It was a brownout. That's
Jake?
what it was.
Yeah, Jake, our producer here.
See, I do need a man.
Oh,
Oh,
Motherfucker, I will.
Shots
I promise you,
fired.
I will have Drake drop
Shots
your
fired.
ass.
All right, well, ask who
Fire.
fixes my internet at home. Ask who,
Goddamn
ask who,
hater.
ask who
I never
finishes.
said
Ask,
that.
ask who
All right.
fixes the internet
That
at home
was
with my
funny.
mesh
So-
system.
It's too late, Gita. It's already
my
done. The
house.
joke is
I'm a-
done.
Nope. Anyway, go ahead.
First of all, Comcast fixed it. Thank you,
oh.
Oh,
And
Jake,
number-
you ain't shit now. You see how it,
No,
you see how it is?
Jesus. Jake
Jake,
was
it
on it.
was you, Jake. It was you.
But
Damn, Jake.
can we go back to the question at hand?
But this is why we pay Jake. But that's a whole different thing.
Oh my God. They're joking.
Hey, here to be on
Damn,
top of
Jake.
the internet. All right, Rob.
We love Jake.
I think we remember Q's. Q's was somebody who was feminine, nurturing. I believe I heard giving. Gina probed him to make sure that he needed somebody attractive. I think that's kind of where we ended up
Yeah,
with
because
that.
that ain't gonna be a wildebeest.
Now, Rob, you kind of started, and then the internet guys didn't want you to finish. So let's start over. What? And don't talk about what motherfucking women. Just what do you want? Let's just.
I
be
just
real
said-
specific.
Those are
Don't
those
sugarcoat.
things. I said I do want an attractive woman. I do want one who's smart and wise and provides good counsel, who takes care of herself physically and spiritually. Like I want someone who is going to be a good influence on my children. One who's going to be mindful of my resources and value them in the effort that I give to them.
Okay.
Right. So,
All right. Anything else?
but
If I ask my next question?
like I said earlier, like I don't think that's too much different than the dude from 1967.
I think it's very different, but that's another conversation for another
Yeah.
day. But now I'm going to turn the question on to the women. Not exactly, though. Andrew, based on what B and Rob have shared, are the women today better or worse than their grandmothers and mothers?
I believe that the women today are better, and I believe the men today are worse.
Wait, we ain't got there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I will say, just to
That's
touch on,
usually
and
how
just to
this
touch
go.
on your point, Rob, I will say this: the reason why women were more feminine, as if you would like to say, back then, is because men gave them the groundwork to be so. Okay, over and out.
I didn't say nothing about being feminine.
Well,
that was cute. Get his
I know.
ass.
That was me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Q. I just wanted to say that, that's the reason why
It
the
is
man
a-
laid out. In order for a woman to step into her femininity, there has to be someone that's saying you can be secure in that. So I'm going to take over that load. And
What
that's
is the same dudes who had the multiple families?
Who? Your granddaddies? Yes.
Yeah, don't go on 23andMe with the wrong relative.
So they were both.
Find all
They were
kinds
at
of
the
people.
same time.
Y'all are getting all off with the
I
subject.
found a cousin. I'm just letting you know.
whores,
Huh?
but at the same time they were whores, but also the same time
So
they
some
were
things
men who
just don't change,
provided
I
a
see.
framework
Y'all did carry forward some of
and
the.
space for the woman to be more feminine. At the
Okay.
same time, they were these dudes.
Well, first
I
of
guess
all-
what? Wait, no. What is
ahead.
your point, though? I guess.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think that exists. What y'all suggesting is that this back then, that the reason that women could be more feminine, according to Angie, is because men provided a space for that. But also, these are the men that y'all talk about who were financial abusers, who had multiple families, who did a host of things that y'all needed to have options from.
Needed to
Yeah,
escape.
okay. I mean, that's two different channels, though.
I mean, so what do you? So wait,
I'm
are
like-
Rob? Are you implying? And I'm gonna get to Gina on the question I want to dig into.
Yeah.
Are you implying that because men behave poorly throughout time, that there was never any space for women to be feminine? Because that's what I'm
No.
hearing. Because you're like, they were financial abusers, they were actual abusers, they had multiple families, which has existed for millennia. So that would mean to me, as a smart person, that women have never been able to exercise their femininity So why are you asking for something that women have never been able to do if you all have always been able?
They just said they were able to do it.
Huh?
They just said they were able to do it. They said them dudes back then was providing
All I'm pointing out is
I just said quote unquote.
It's a bit flawed if that's the position you're coming from.
And to be honest, I was literally going based off of what you said. You said that back in the day.
He didn't say it. Q said that.
Well, I'm sorry, not Rob, but Q.
Or
you
B,
literally, or B. You're the one that said that women just looked a lot more nurturing. They looked a lot more, they just had this look about them and this essence about them that exude femininity. And
no, I didn't say that. I didn't say they had any look. I just said they were.
Not look.
He's saying away from them looks. I noticed.
So it wasn't.
that shit with a
so Rob, it wasn't me. It wasn't me that said that. I was only piggybacking off of what Q said, and I simply said that if they were able to, and I even did this. If they were able to do that, that's because they had a space to do that. So that's the only way a person can be feminine is if someone allows for them to be that way.
So women have never been allowed to be feminine?
No. Don't try to spin that like I said that. I asked that question.
I'm asking.
Based off what you said.
She actually brought up a really good point.
So, but I'm not going to belabor this point because we need to talk about how women suck. So, Gina.
How we get here? Okay.
Because that's the entire point of this podcast, right? That we are not our mothers and our grandmothers.
No, we're not our mothers and our
let's
grandmothers.
answer the question: are we better or worse than our mothers and grandmothers based on what
Men
BQ and Rob said?
We are women who have gone through evolutions. And so I think it depends. I firmly believe that all men want a woman that makes them feel like their definition of a man. And all women want men that make them feel like their definition of a woman. So it's all, we're not monolithic as genders, right? I think the last 10 years taught us that, right? I think that how do you want to feel as a woman? Do you want to feel protected? Do you want to feel supported? Do you want to feel like if some shit goes down, he's got my back? Do you want to feel like, or is that not important to you? Is, as a woman, it important to you to, look, I can make the money, I can do whatever. I want a partner in life. I want somebody that I love. I mean, it varies. And so, but I do believe that we've been given the latitude to have more options of being feminine and what that means for us. And as our options have expanded, so have our definitions of the men that we want in our lives.
So, Rob, unfortunately, you were not going to get any one-word answers, not out of this.
Oh, hell no, not out of me.
So,
I love it, Gina.
But I gotta flip
that was great.
it.
Gina's full of shit.
I gotta wait. Oh my God. Now I have to flip it on the
First
on
you
the
hate
men,
on me
right?
all day,
I gotta flip it on the men, so I'm gonna start with Gina. Gina, what kind of man? What attributes in a man do women want?
Women still want to be protected. They want to feel.
What does that mean? Just like we made them probe the femininity thing.
Protected. We want to be physically protected. So if I go out with you in public, I want to know that if we get a flat tire, you know how to handle that. I want to know that if we're about to get killed, you can do something to I don't need to get involved in that, right? I want to feel safe with you. Right? For me, personally, I like men that are larger than me. Okay? Just because that's how I like to feel as a woman. And so anybody can say whatever they want to say about that. I don't care. I like men that are larger than me. No one else's opinion matters to me.
And yikes.
I don't care. Because that's that. No one else is picking for me. I'm picking for me, right? If men want to be kings in the house, then I'm happy to defer, but you also have to prove that you're good decision makers and that you're not going to fuck up money. Okay, but if you don't prove that, then there's no submission happening. Because I need to trust you financially.
We got to work on y'all succinctness and answers.
I'm just saying.
That's a lot of good stuff in there.
What do women want from men?
Well, I can't speak for all women, but what do I want? I want, first, you have to have a relationship with God. So you have to have God first. Secondly, what do I want? Again, protection. Protection, security. I do want a leader. I need a man that knows how to lead. If you do not know how to lead a household, then it's chaotic just from the start. So, and as she said, with the protection, that's in any situation. So if someone says something disrespectful to me, I need you to be able to understand that you need to defend me. In a situation where, you know, let's say hypothetically, I'm not gonna even say hypothetically. I need you to have God first, and then right after, and I'm talking about quickly right after, I need to be next. So it has to be God, me, you know, our family, our children, and then everybody else after that. So I come before everybody.
Including their mama?
Well, that's the
I
part
mean, I'm
that-
just saying.
The marriage vow part that
married?
people forget is forsaking all
Wait,
others.
we coming to y'all next.
Exactly.
We coming to y'all next.
It's biblical. That's what it says. I didn't write the rules. Get mad with God, because
Yeah,
God is the
Eve
one
did.
that wrote them.
Eve did.
Oh, okay. Here
Okay,
we go.
so now that the women have laid at least the groundwork for themselves,
I need to know
He's a
why I'm full of
riot.
shit.
I'm gonna end with Rob because Rob looked like he ready.
Because he's talking all that shit anyway.
Bean.
Gina B's full of shit. Let's
I'm
hear
gonna
why.
pose a question to you. Are based on what they shared, not on your opinion on what they shared, because they did a horrible job answering the question at hand. But I expect the men to do better. Based on what they shared, are men better than their grandfather? Are men today better than their fathers and grandfathers?
I'm gonna say, let me say this first. I think both men and women they're not cut the same way as their ancestors. I just think in general, in terms of resilience, present day folks don't have the same level of resilience. They just don't. I think a lot of things like technology and industrialization has made a lot of us unable to do things. So when certain things hit the fan, if folks become too reliant on certain things, then absent that technology or that whatever the case may be, you're at a loss. We're both sitting there looking crazy. So I think, like I said, overall, both men and women are not cut the same as their grandparents or great grandparents.
So Rob, I'm gonna need you to just, because nobody has said if they better or worse. They've given very lovely, flowery answers.
We don't have the same resilience. Either one of us, men and women. That's what I'm saying. We don't. So in essence, I don't think we are like neither one of us, men or women, have the same resilience as as the people before us. So I think we like downgraded in that sense.
Okay. All right, Rob. Same question.
Can I get a couple points of clarification before we start?
God damn it! All four of y'all.
Hold on.
Well, it isn't the greatest question, but go ahead.
I want to make sure I understood that physically safe was in there, right? Leader. Guy first.
That was Angie's.
Right? You were like, gotta be taller.
Well, that's just because that's how I like to feel as a woman.
Yeah. What am I missing?
Quite a bit, but that's okay.
I think you've captured everything. They
Financial security.
Security, evidence of being able to handle situations. You missed that.
Yeah.
I need to be able to
Leader. I
trust
put that on
your
the leader.
choices.
Well, he said leadership, and
Leader.
I think that comes with being a leader. Trusting
Yeah.
their choices.
Just make sure you put in financial security as well.
Financial, yeah.
But that may need to be number one. I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's take y'all needs. Physically safe. I think it'd be probably on par. Be honest with you. I don't know if it's any better than it was in the back then. I mean, I don't think you can argue either way in that sense, right? I do think that if you expect a man to be able to physically prepare you or take care of you in that sense, you also have to understand he's had to have gone through some kind of training to do that. Meaning, like actual real life experience where you have to put them hands up.
Yeah.
And what you're going to get with a man who's had to live through that experience in those trials. Like, he's a different man as a result of that. You understand that, right? Okay, it doesn't matter.
Military training.
Not first. We go ahead and go
Martial
past
arts.
that
I
one.
mean, I
They can work out.
I have
Like,
questions for that,
Yeah,
but
I'm
okay.
not like you don't need to be a criminal. If that's
No,
what
no,
you're
no. I'm saying training. I didn't say
No.
necessarily.
yeah, I mean,
That makes you
everyone
different.
has access
It makes
to
you
a gym.
different.
When you have that,
Yeah, but
And
Can I-
most
get
people
what-
ain't gonna get that in no martial arts.
no, I get what
Well, my
Rob is
fiance
talking about. He's
trained
talking about
to
like
shoot
I
guns, so.
really can't.
he's talking about real
Yeah,
world
we got more excuses than a long house.
excuses. Well,
Hey,
You
listen,
can't
Angie,
take them
Angie,
seriously.
No.
Hey, I knew the.
no, but if
I
you
knew the
if you come into
system of-
contact with people who seem like actual who have to apply these things to like real world combat, they not a regular dude.
That's fine.
They're
But
gonna
we
be a
don't
little
want regular
different.
Dudes, but go ahead.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think they're asking for Jackie Chan. I don't think that's the request at hand. But okay, Rob, keep
He's too
going.
little anyway.
All right. In terms of leaderships, right? I think being equipped to lead financially, for example, decision making, for example, those are also as a result of education, right? I think men have higher levels of education than they did back then. So I think there's an argument to be made that we may be better in that sense. Financial security, undoubtedly, we are making more money today. That's just the numbers.
But are we secure?
That's different.
I have questions
Hold
about
on,
that.
because that's the point I made earlier. That your expectations impact our security as well. So if I'm making $180,000 a year, with the expectation, and you have expectations that we live at a $270,000 a year, there's nothing that's going to create financial insecurity.
Okay. I still got questions about.
But that doesn't mean you're going to stay there. But anyway, go ahead.
It doesn't even matter. But are we better or worse? I don't know if you landed.
No,
one was on
Are
par.
men better
Oh,
or
y'all
worse?
better or worse? Sorry. Yes, right.
We absolutely are.
Y'all are better or worse?
And I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna tell you this one, and I'm gonna
Oh.
tell you why. From my vantage point, and this because y'all women get real individual when we talking about y'all in the aggregate. It'd be real funny to me when we talking about y'all in the aggregate. Y'all instantly be like, "For me," but I think I'm a better father than my father, and I think I have an exceptional father. And I think one of the things that I'm better at is emotional connection with my son.
But that's not all men right now, though.
That's what?
That's not all men. Like that's you.
Yeah, but
You're
neither was
maybe
when you was
exceptional.
giving out your criteria.
Yeah, but to Rob's point, everybody
Come on
was
now.
it was very, this is my perspective.
That's exactly why I said that. Y'all
No,
get
but you were
very
saying that you get
individual
funny
talk
when we
about y'all in
aggregate, but I'm just
aggregate.
saying that's individual to you, maybe.
No, I think the numbers say there ain't no better father on the planet than the black father in the aggregate.
Okay.
In the aggregate, ain't no better better father on the planet than a black man.
Okay.
That's just the truth. And I think that's because we've become more emotionally mature. And I
got
understand.
questions about that too, but okay.
I do too, but go ahead.
But I understand that I'm learning. There's a variance between, like I said, I didn't hear the word "I love you" until I was like 14 years old, 15 years old from my dad, right? My son hears it 15 times a day. So I do think we have grown and out of some of those levels of machismo, despite the fact there's still expectation that we have some of that machismo in me, i.e. you want to be feeling physically protected. So I do think men are better than they were in the past. I think we have evolved into better human beings, largely because y'all have left some of those responsibilities that we were underestimating, right, to us, and we've had to share some of those loads. So we have a different value of them now than before. You think I value the shit out of somebody folding some clothes. I value the shit out of somebody making sure I have a good home. Now.
I don't know if that's different than your father and your father's generation. I feel like that's very on par. Or maybe that's what you're saying.
I'm saying not only do we value, but we also participated in it.
Oh, as opposed to previous generations.
Yeah.
Okay. I can maybe agree with that. Angie, not so much.
That's in my TED Talk. I appreciate y'all for coming.
Don't be still on my line. Here's the one question. I haven't really shared my opinion on this show because honestly, you guys have said things way better than I could have said.
Not necessarily.
One of the things that's been kind of bugging me about this entire conversation is that kind of what I said before, right? That we really have romanticized
Ooh.
our grandparents' relationships, right? We really have sat and just looked at it and said, like, man, they were just amazing because the daddies did this and the mamas did that.
Yeah, yep.
And here's my question. I'm gonna start with Angie because I know she's gonna be ready. Why do we do that? Why are we so eager to romanticize these relationships that if we actually stopped and thought about it, were deeply dysfunctional? What are we trying to
Highly.
what are we doing here?
We like to romanticize the unknown. Because we have no idea or no clue of what all that they went through, because a lot of times they were very, very they practiced discretion. Like that was just like a part of like everything stays in the house. You be quiet and no telling what, if they're saying stuff stay in the house to us, they're saying certain things was gonna stay within their marriage.
They had no podcasts.
And so, you know,
Did
that's
you say Anna podcast? You were
you know, I mean, nowadays we talk about everything. Like we're way more vocal. We're extremely assertive. We're gonna speak how we want to speak. We're gonna say what we need to say. And if you don't like it, that's okay. But we're gonna say it.
Right.
And that's what makes it a difference. You know, Grandma probably said the same thing, but she probably said it quieter. She maybe gave him a look. Like they had those things that were way more private, and now it's just like way more public in this new generation. Like he said, even with social media.
I agree.
It's just,
I think that's good. I didn't even think about that. Q, B, whatever your name is. Same question.
I agree with Angie. There's not a lot of discretion nowadays. In terms of now we can pull back the curtain and see what's going on. But I think I had this conversation with a friend of mine as we were talking about, I think something surrounding his dad or something. And I'm like, you know, despite like good, bad, or ugly, like your dad obviously worked with the tools he had and did the best he could. If we dig and pry and get to looking, all of us are fallible. None of us are perfect, but our grandparents, they were able to pull it off and make it work. Like, it's like here with the show, we had a brownout with the internet, but we make it work. And God knows what else is going on, but you make it work and you make it function to where you can get kids off and have them successful. So and they did just a good job of hiding the dirty parts from us. Which is, what do you need to know about your grandfather or whatever, your grandmother having an affair and you're 10? How's that going to help you?
I mean, outside knowing he ain't shit, but you know, and you might have some brothers and sisters out there.
I will say,
but then what you gonna do with that information after you find out your granddad ain't shit at 10? What you gonna do then?
I mean, I guess go play with
have
your
conflict.
You'll
Have conflict.
But you know,
Hello.
It would allow for, I mean, I don't know about the age process, because I know in this generation, these kids are a lot more smarter than I could probably imagine. But I do feel like it would allow for a person, because I'm just going to say a kid is still a person. I don't care how old they are. It would allow for that kid to be able to be a lot more vigilant in their choices. It would allow for them, because see, although discretion is good to a certain degree, I do believe that some things need to be vocalized. Like, yeah, grandma and grandpa were quiet, but they could have been doing a lot of stuff wrong, and had they would have had someone to speak to, you know, maybe some things wouldn't be passed down so...
It wouldn't be the 10-year-old that he's speaking to, though.
It wouldn't be a continual, you know...
Yeah.
Dysfunction?
Downfall.
But it wouldn't be a 10-year-old speaking to.
Perhaps it might not be a continual downfall, but what is the evidence of that? I would say, looking at them, what is the evidence of, what's the counter? You know, that they successfully produce, like our parents, and then our parents successfully produce, like, that's the counter to that. I mean, it could be, I mean, we could all, if we dig back and look at our parents, we could all find some way or something they could do different. That's something we all have to resolve and say, hey, like I said, they worked out of the toolkit they had and they did the best they could do, given their hand. Everybody don't need in terms of children, they don't need a front row seat to that stuff. Like you address it certain things as a to a young man, a young woman, for them to look out for, and so on and so forth as they go through and they find mates and whatnot. But they don't need to see the playbook as it's happening in your house, or like your parents and grandparents.
Yeah, no, that's too much information for kids. Like, I don't think kids really need to know all that.
No.
I mean, not at that
Angie said, put that shit out there on the gram.
I mean, this is my thing. I just kind of feel like, especially, and I know I'm gonna ruffle some feathers. I kind of feel like in our community, I do feel like we try and diminish a child as in like, okay, they're a kid, like they don't need to know, or let's keep. But the thing about it is, in every other ethnicity, they know that kids are not going to be kids for a very long time. So they expose them to a different way of life so that they can be better prepared when it's time for them to have to go through certain situations. This is what happens. We treat them like kids up until they're 18. Then they turn 18 and they don't know what the hell is going on in life. I would say that, and I'm being honest, like my parents coddled me. And, I didn't know that adulting was this ghetto, okay? I did not know that it would be this, and I'm not, of course they helped me with certain things, but.
Angie, you got kids?
I do, I have 2.
How old are they?
14 and 6.
Oh, you got little ones. Well, I mean, you got a little one.
One little one and one big one.
I just, you know what? I mean, what's the option? So you say like, all this shit's going on with your grandparents. It's like, well, granddaddy's a whore, honey. Like, I don't know.
No. Let me tell you what you do. I'm gonna tell you exactly what you do. I've done it. I've talked to him about my their granddad being a whore.
You got a script. I want to hear a script. I need this. This is priceless. What's the script, right? What's the script? He's a
Listen, I'm totally kidding. Of course, I haven't talked to them. What kind of horrible people are y'all? No. But what I have talked about is me and their mom separating. Right?
Your mom is a whore, honey. No,
listen, the tramp. No. But we've had to have those conversations because, as Angie talks about, is describing, my son's very, very intuitive, right? And he's experiencing the trauma and the pain of that, even if he can't put words to it, right? So we have talked about it. I think we have never and will never until probably will never not talk about it in the granular level he would know specifics like daddy stepped out. If my mommy's saying to him, listen, your dad made some choices that really, really broke the trust between me and your dad, and it hurt me in a way that I didn't feel like I was going to be. That's different. If she out there like, oh, she messed around with Aunt Liz or whatever it may be, like that's crazy. Like, but I think there is a balance there, but you also have to have the capacity to communicate in that way. And if you don't, i.e. previous generations of us, if you don't have that capacity, it's probably better off waiting for that conversation to happen when that person is a little bit older, right? That's just the reality of it, in my opinion. So I think there's a balance between the discretion and preparing your kids. I always say I wish my parents would have been and I knew a lot by 9 years old in terms of my experience in this world as a black man and all the stories and yada yada yada. But I wish they were even more thorough, so I can truly use it to shape my experiences more. So I understand that, but also understand the premise that Brother BQ Whitney Young is saying, and that you.
Now we're adding another name.
Discretion has to be taken into account in those situations based on, and it's subjective as hell. I do think men are better than they were today, and I'm glad for that. I think that women are too, at the same time. I think that women are allowing men to have emotions. Some new shit, right? where I don't have to maintain the misogyny unless you're dealing with Gina Bean. You just gotta fuck everybody up, motherfucker. You gotta stick a nigga whenever
Only
you
if
see
they're
it.
threatening me.
Get this barista. He didn't put them 2 pumps of caramel macchiato in my
physically,
drink. Get this
physically.
barista, George.
Well,
Like,
so, no, my fiance has fortified me with skills. He was military trained and martial arts trained, so we're good.
she over there, y'all out there beating up the daycare folk.
Only
But
if.
I'm just saying, like, we both have gotten better. I think there is a problem. That's why the no answer was so significant to me, though, Chantel, is that the acknowledgement thing was present and fully present without any need to prompt it.
Okay, I can respect that.
There we go.
So, okay, first of all, I could literally talk to all of you guys or listen to you guys because I've offered little to no opinions on this podcast, which is a shock. I know there are people in the comments like,
Who are you right now?
Chantel ain't barely said shit on this damn
Who the
podcast.
Subway guy, Gina?
Oh, I haven't been to that Subway recently,
Oh,
so
I
he hasn't
forgot
given
about
me the
that.
phone number. The story here, Jameek, you have a great memory. There's a specific Subway where every single time I get sandwiches from my dad. And every single time I go there, this man he's very consistent. He puts his phone number in the bag, and this has happened about 3 times. And it's probably like 21 years old, or no, probably even younger. But no, I have not been to that Subway recently, Jameek. But I'll let you know if he gives me the number the next time I go.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so I gotta
I
wrap
don't
this
call it.
up. I'm so glad I picked each of you guys to be on this podcast. I don't know if I could have had this conversation with a different group of people. So first of all, thank you guys for coming in. But I want to ask one last question. I'm going to time box all of you all because you all are chatty Cathys.
Again.
So everybody got 1 minute. And I probably won't even take that long because I think this question is going to be a little difficult for all of us to answer. Do you think, based on what their values were and what our values are now, do you think the previous generation would be proud of us? Let's start with QB Whitney or whatever.
In a sense of, I would say, accomplishments, like, yes, and that way, and some of the things that we've accomplished. But I got to go back to the resiliency. And in terms of resiliency, I think some of my ancestors are kind of shake their heads a little bit. But accomplishments, yeah, they'd be beaming.
Okay. Angie?
I feel like you guys are going to hate my answer. I feel like they'll be indifferent. Like, I think they'll be proud, but they'll also be a little disappointed at how elaborate we can be as far as sharing things and being so openly out there. So I think they'll be indifferent.
Okay. Rob?
I think they'd be exceptionally proud. I have an 83-year-old uncle, great uncle, and just lost a 90-year-old aunt. And I would say they'd be exceptionally proud of the people that we have become. More, and I think that would be rooted in they probably didn't share with us a lot the realities. Real quick, there was a dude I was in a gentleman's a church class with once, been married 50 years. And we all went around the table. I think I've told this story before. Been around the table. They asked us how well we knew our wives. At the time, I was married 3 years. I said probably about a 9. And he laughed because he had been married 50. And he said about a 4 because he had stopped learning who his wife was. I think humans are very, very consistent over time. And I think the person that Brother Q was talking about, who was on that cruise, is the same man who decided to remember his wife or learn his wife all the time. So now he's more vulnerable enough to carry a purse. I think we're very consistent as people. When I look at it objectively, we all have gotten better because we had opportunities that they didn't, and we took advantage of them.
Okay. Gina B?
Yes, I have an older father. My dad is 96 because he's a musician and, they do things later, and for a longer time. And he is proud of me, which he didn't tell me until like relatively recently. But he is proud of my boldness. And I think that I think he appreciates it because I'm able to be bold on his behalf too now. So anyway, yeah.
Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna try to answer all the questions as succinctly as I can. Do I think our predecessors would be proud? I don't. I think that is part of the lineage of being the older generation. You're always judging the younger generation.
Agreed.
And that's us too, right? We look at these 20-somethings and say, what the fuck, blah, blah, blah. So no, I think the lineage of disappointment across generations would still continue. But I think that's good. And the reason I think that's good is because if they were proud of us, that means we would be like them, and that's not what we should shoot for. I think we should shoot to keep progressing. I think we should shoot to be different. I think, as Rob has said, men they're trying to be more emotional. I don't know if everybody's being as successful as Rob, but they're trying to be more emotional. They're trying to seek therapy. They're trying to shift some of their expectations of women, not all, but some. And I think women are progressing. They're making more money. They are finding their need for men is starting to evolve and change. And I think those things are good because that means we're moving forward and not standing still. So, again, thank you everybody for coming on. I hope Angie, QB, Whitney Young, I hope you guys didn't get shunned away, that you won't come back, because I would love to have both of you guys back for more fuckery and some serious conversation. I have no idea what we're going to talk about next week, so feel free to shoot me some ideas like Rob did. I always take them seriously, and so does Brian. We both should be back in studio, but
which means I won't.
You never know. You never know with us. Somebody may bow out. But thank you guys for watching. Always good comments. Love seeing you guys in the comments, and I will see you next week. Bye.
All right, take care, everybody.
Peace and grease.